Today's episode is not brought to you by Dafran.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, the Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, my man. How are you?
Oh, I'm riding high on this April Fool's Day, 2019, and I think we can say I don't think there's any April Fool's jokes in this episode. So, future podcast listeners don't need to get thrown into this April Fool's madness. You've probably already dealt with it. You don't need to. I don't think there is. There might be. I don't think there is. I don't think there's anything in here. It might come up. Who knows? At the very least,
nothing planned. Anyways.
Certainly not. Yeah, you're only going to get on the spot April Fool's jokes. So that means they're either really, really bad or they're fantastic. So there's no pre-planned bad April Fool's jokes in here. There were some good ones today, though, but mostly bad. But let's just jump right into it, get through the housekeeping before we get to talk about what we alluded to in the intro. Blackwatch Report, of course, is back and ready for action. They had an interview with the name of a person whose name is eluding me. They're from the Montreal team, and they were also on GOATs, and I'm waiting for either Thorn or Deathblow to cue me into the answer because I can't check Discord. But they had an interview that definitely happened. Tensa, yes. I can't believe I couldn't remember that.
Yeah, main support for the rebellion.
Yes, okay. I was right about every other detail about it. There we go. Tensa. I just couldn't remember. But check that out, as well as the regular episode for Blackwatch Report. All of your Tier 2, Tier 3, non-Overwatch League, competitive Overwatch stuff, Path to Pro, all that good stuff. Check it out, Blackwatch Report. Make sure, go ahead and give them a follow, because Contenders, a lot of times, is what it's the underbelly. It's what keeps the ball rolling for competitive Overwatch when we get these off weeks. We personally like them, but some people just need that constant speed, and that's where Contenders comes in. Make sure you check out Blackwatch Report.
At Blackwatch Report on Twitter. No O in report.
I'm not going to try to come up with the verbal chopsticks needed to get that. That's on Thorn. That's the Thorn, Rain, and Kyle problem.
Report.
We also had an episode of Foul Play last week, and we're having another one live recorded right after this episode here, twitch.tv/High Noon Podcast on Monday. We had our very first fantasy draft of video game franchises, and let's just say it was
a lot of fun.
Yes.
There was a clear winner.
Yes.
There was skullduggery and cheating.
Yes.
Clip
Clip it,
chat. Clip it. I got my confession.
I didn't say who it was.
I didn't
say who it was.
I had a lot of fun with it. Really hoping to get some more of those out for you guys. If nothing else, it'll give us just a fun excuse to do random things in the off season. So
yes,
keep an eye out for those.
Yes, let us know what you thought about them. We already got our initial wave of feedback of everyone everyone talking about it in the Discord, so that's always good. But yeah, so that was good. We also are going to be having a new episode of Around the Payload tomorrow. We've got some hosts lined up, but I now know better than to announce them early, because I keep my fingers crossed all day the day of, but we've
been at this a little while now. We're learning some things.
It's season 2 has been tough to schedule, but we got people on board. We are good to go for that. But let's talk briefly about what we did this week. Deathblow, anything fun, exciting, new, etc.?
No, not really. I've just been kind of enjoying the week off, trying to play some video games, getting into some Sea of Thieves a little bit, and trying to get back into the Overwatch swing of things, but like the meta's in such a weird state right now. that I don't know what to play. Our teams don't know. No teams know what to play, and you just kind of like go in and figure it out, and that's fun in its own right. But definitely ready for Overwatch League to just tell me what to play forehead, because I don't want to think for myself.
Yeah, it's felt a little bit weird with no Overwatch League these last couple of weeks, but we're back and ready for action. Speaking of things that are back, a new episode of the Overwatch version of Streamer Showdown, which I had a hand in writing and helping put together, came out. I watched the whole episode live, and I'm not just saying this because I helped on the episode. It was an amazing episode.
Sideshow's just hysterical
He's
at all
so
times.
funny.
I mean, I could watch him call Emong a smooth brain over and over and over again. Just
so
on loop, like 10-hour loop of him calling Emong a smooth brain.
It's just
the best.
Just his face, just like when he's like thinking, and then someone answers, he's just the what? I don't want to spoil anything. I'm not just saying this because I have no real vested interest other than I want people to watch them so that I can keep helping make more episodes. But you need to watch this episode. It was that good.
Yeah, it was a good one.
It was really, really good. They're all very good, but this one was quite nice. But let's move in here and talk about
news.
Ooh, Deathblow, I feel like you predicted this one, so I'm going to give you the honors here.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know how closely I came to predicting it, but closer than I think a lot of people did, at least. Dafran has retired from Overwatch League. One and done, one stage, couldn't hack it, or didn't want to hack it, I think is the more accurate assessment. You know, he had the kind of like debate retirement early on in the process, and I'm guessing his decision was made at that point, and he just said, no, I want to, you know, I have an opportunity here to show some growth and to do, you know, do a little better than I've done in the past, and do it in a way that's better for my team, my teammates, and better, but still not good. I mean, you still left them, right? Like they're still high and dry and don't have that player to fill the gap anymore. Number one selling jersey in Overwatch League. Glad you guys got him while you could, because I can't imagine he's going to be coming back at any point. I think you can still buy him, by the way. I'm sure it spiked the jersey sales a little bit in the long run. But yeah, you know, we were talking about it a little in the pre-show about whether or not I kind of called this one or not, and it's tough to say, because I remember specifically saying I didn't anticipate like an XQC style like immediate implosion. But he definitely just, this is why we had the meme, and this is why we didn't talk about him. And it's because when somebody leaves professional gaming to go and work at McDonald's, they don't have the mentality. They don't, you know what I mean? Like they're just not, and it's not, to me, something you get if you don't have the mentality, if you don't have the drive in that situation to be your best and to go out there and do the best you can, and you don't have the love for it, you can't manufacture that. So, you know, good on him for giving it another go. You know, I don't think there's really any blame to place on Dafran here, right? Like,
no.
If I'm able to sit here on, you know, my cushy chair with my microphone in front of my face and half call it from, you know, the moment he signs, then it was something that the Atlanta Reign knew was a very serious possibility. I think Seffi's tweet afterwards was like, GG, no regrets. Like it was fun. You know, Dafran gets along with those guys, at least the, you know, Seffi and the coaching staff. There's a relationship there. They wanted to give him an opportunity, and you know, at bare minimum, he came in and showed that mechanically he belonged here. Yeah, and I think that was something that we didn't necessarily know before. Now he didn't show what was, you know, force fed to us the moment he signed, which was that he's the best. He's, you know, he was going to carry the team and all these things. And
he didn't really get the chance to do that though with Zarya.
But didn't he though? Well,
could have been better.
How did Nene do outside the graph? How did Nene do?
Nene's better than Dafran.
You know? Right,
like Nene did what we thought Nene would do and was very good. Dafran.
But even you look at somebody like, it's tough to say because Atlanta was the better team here, but like I thought Dante probably played the better Zarya when given the opportunity. Like I don't know. I thought Dafran was kind of run of the mill, though exciting. I mean, the play he gave us the play. right? Like the over the top grab from above with Massa on Hollywood. That was great. And, definitely, a solid player, but not the world beater that was promised. And like you were kind of saying, he didn't get the opportunity to shine on the heroes that he's supposed to play. When you get players like Nene that really stand out. I'm blanking on some of the other ones. There was a lot of really good DPS players moved into the Zarya position. But you can't, like, it's like when a DPS player isn't great on Brig. Like, you don't fault him, you just sub somebody in that's a little better at it and call it a day. That's why we're seeing Striker and all those guys on the bench, because just let them play what they're good at. And so he showed at least the flexibility, the adaptability to come in and play the hero well, help his team win. They're off to a really good start. The question becomes, where do they go from here? As part of that, they've signed Funny Astro as a two-way player. The Atlanta Reign have. So great to see Funny find his way in. I gained some confidence in Dafran, right? Like, I wasn't sure he really had it at all going into the season. I thought the Zarya play really kind of elevated them to the point where I felt confident in their second DPS now. So I thought Erster Dafran had a chance to be really good behind a tank line that was well above average in Dako and Pakpo. But now we're kind of back to really questioning what they've got here in Atlanta, and it's a little unfortunate. F in the chat for I Play Games, who's a big Atlanta Reign fan, and was very excited about this. It's got to be really rough for the fans. So don't really know what to say to you guys, other than you're just going to have to kind of put your faith in the guys that are coming in here. We don't really know anymore how the two-way player situation works. So the fact that Funny Astro was signed as a two-way player
means basically nothing to us.
Right.
Until it's out there, it just means he can play whenever he wants and
wherever he wants. That's basically the only information we really have on that at this point. So I don't know if they clarified it at all, but I definitely haven't seen it, and I don't think they have. So
I don't think so either.
I assume this was part of why we saw like Naler play 2 maps in week 4 or something like that of the stage, because they kind of knew this was going to happen. But yeah, we're going to have to just kind of wait and see which one of these 2 players they're going to play. I'm leaning more towards Naler, who I personally don't have. I mean, he's not done it. And much like so many of these other expansion players, doesn't mean he can't. It just means you don't know what it's going to look like until we see it. Yeah. That's been our track record. I've after the way the expansion teams kind of all came back crashing back down to earth by the end of stage 1, even for the most part.
Vancouver.
For the most part. Toronto
too. Toronto went up, I think, compared to what people were putting them.
The playoff performance notwithstanding, they had a very, very good stage 1. But going into it, we always said there was going to be surprises. There was going to be teams that performed really, really well, and there was going to be teams that collapsed and didn't live up to the expectations that we had from them based off their past. And now we're kind of resetting a little bit. I mean, it's only 1 player on the roster, but we're going to be talking a little bit about the patch notes coming in. A lot of them have to do with DPS heroes. This is going to be a much more DPS centric and focused stage 2 than stage 1 was, obviously. So it's a very high impact role, to lose. What was Houston last season without their Tracer player? What was, what are these teams that have fatal flaws good for in the end? Some exciting matches, some middling finishes, and then maybe not even making the playoffs. Like that's not what Atlanta have in mind here. So they're going to need somebody to really stand out. I'm personally leaning towards they're likely to make another addition or another signing in some capacity here. It's, to me, when you're replacing somebody, especially a fan favorite like that, you want to get somebody that's going to pop off. So maybe they make a trade, maybe they do something like that. Hopefully they're able to, if they really want to kind of stay in the playoff conversation, because I don't know, I'm just not sold on it. Erster's like an above average DPS player to me from what I've seen, and tough to know from stage 1, obviously, but there's a lot of resetting going on in Atlanta right now, a lot of retooling based on when you kind of build your team around one guy, and that's a little bit what it felt like for Atlanta. And maybe that was just the hype, and maybe it's overblown on our end and just perceived, but they've got to come up with a new plan now, and it's going to involve either, at the moment, Funny Astro or Naler, who are unknown quantities. So.
Yeah, I don't really have much hope in terms of the Well, I don't know, because how much stock do we put in one player? Granted, very very good player in Dafran, for their their performance, which I think was an overperformance based, at least from my initial rating of them at the beginning of the season. But I don't know. I think they can still be a middle of the pack team. I don't know if I don't think I'm predicting them at stage playoffs again. But the one thing that is kind of interesting here is it's almost like when we talked a little bit about it when Siegel retired at the end of season 1. It's coming up again now with Dafran, and not really so much with XQC, but I think the same thing applies to XQC, and why I don't think XQC will be in Overwatch League again is like it's just a more, if you are a top streamer like those 3 guys are, like you're basically taking a pay cut, and also potentially like you're adding a lot more stress and a lot more work for probably less pay, and you're not your own boss anymore, and a lot of people are beholden to you, or not beholden to you. A lot of people are relying on you for things. Like if I'm Dafran in Dafran's position with Dafran's Twitch channel, his fame, his whatnot, like, I don't know what his numbers are and how much he makes, but like it's the same reason why, like, oh, do you think Ninja would ever play on any team? No. Because no team is ever going to be able to pay his salary. And when you go and you're a streamer and you go and play tournaments, we see this with Smash Bros, you see this with Hearthstone, we see this, like you're literally losing subs. Whenever Ninja takes a break, whenever Tim and those top streamers they lose thousands of subs when they come back.
I think I heard Ninja say one time he went to like PAX or something like that and was out like 40 grand.
Yeah, he lost like 10,000 subs
that he didn't get back, and when he came back. So it's definitely a talking point and something they definitely need to weigh and measure in their decision. Yeah. But I will say there's a difference between being Ninja and having his income.
There's a big difference between those two.
The number 6 streamer in Overwatch or something like that. I don't know what. Siegel's probably number 1 still. But,
I think Dafran's probably number 1.
At. Could be. I'm not.
It depends on if you count XQC or not. XQC is number 1 when he streams Overwatch. He's number 1 in Overwatch, and then probably he's top 3. Those 3 guys are top 3 for sure.
Definitely by them. It's hard to keep track with all the streamers getting signed to the orgs and stuff like that. Like I can't. It's so hard to know who's big anymore when you're not like actively paying.
There's not a lot of big Overwatch streamers. A lot of almost all of Overwatch's numbers come from Overwatch League, which I don't
come back, Tim.
See as a bad thing necessarily. I think that's just like, I don't know. That's a different conversation to have. All I'm saying is like it's kind of a catch-22, and if you have a favorite Overwatch streamer and they're very successful, I would not be expecting them to play in Overwatch League. And I think maybe not most, I think a lot of Overwatch League players right now would trade their spot on a team for a successful Twitch stream. But I don't know, maybe not. That would be an interesting question to ask the players. But the long and short of it is, the Dafran rolls back, the XQC rolls back and around the payload. If you're talking about Dafran in Overwatch League, unless I'm sure you're
going to get one week where it's okay because he'll be a topic this coming.
Well, we're talking. He's definitely a topic this week, so it won't count this week. But after this week, I'm taking those points off. I'm taking them back. They're coming to me. But enough about that. We'll be taking points off of ourselves if we keep talking about them. Let's move on here to some storylines. And really, obviously, we didn't have the matches played, but we do have the new patch that we are going to be seeing for Stage 2. Definitely want to talk to us a little bit about this.
Yeah, what happened? We're just going to give you guys some very high-level stuff. If you're looking for detailed conversations and you even want to hear my voice talk about it, I did Omnic Lab a few weeks ago with Andres, and we went through the patch, really went in depth through the numbers, what exactly is going to be changing. This is all going to be very high level. The reason we're doing it like this is there's so many changes, as we're about to tell you. It's impossible to predict what the meta is going to be. You can put 2 lines in the patch notes, and I'm terrible at predicting what the impact is going to be. So now you've got literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like 9 heroes, 8 or 9 heroes here that have significant changes to them, and
1 new hero.
yeah, and a completely new hero added in. So we have really no idea what the meta is going to look like. No. We can make some guesses, and I'll try to infer where I can, but take it all with a grain of salt. We really don't know what exactly is going to be coming into play and what's gonna see play. But the first line here is Baptiste and Paris, the new map, are both in the map pool for stage 2 and the hero pool. So you're gonna basically starting on Wednesday be able to see teams pull out the new hero. You're gonna see them forced to play on the new map, so you're gonna get some cool strats on Paris that you can take into your comp games. As far as the hero specific stuff goes, Lucio's speed aura was nerfed. Junkrat's damage was increased. McCree's fan the hammer was nerfed, but Deadeye was buffed like crazy. Sombra hack is buffed for hacking health packs. Yep. It's like half cooldown whenever she hacks a health pack. Doomfist has lower cooldowns. Orisa moves faster while firing. Soldier 76 got a damage buff. He now also shoots. Okay, his shooting speed is increased when he leaves sprint. That's a weird kind of thing to explain, but essentially he goes from sprinting into shooting much, much faster now, so there's less downtime. Okay. He's a much more versatile hero at escaping and moving and continuing to pressure. And also his ultimate now is able to track and kill Riptire, as well as the invulnerability shield that Soldier or that Baptiste has. And there was also a slight Discord nerf for Zenyatta. This is similar to what they did in the past, where Zenyatta himself got a damage buff to compensate for that. So the Zenyatta's output will be similar, but the benefit to the team will be slightly smaller. So a couple of these I think we can just kind of address right away. Lucio's speed aura was nerfed, and the slight Discord orb nerf, I'm throwing those out. Those basically don't exist to me. We saw this a lot very, very early in our podcasting days, Blevins. They really tried to like bring Lucio down a peg and get him out of the meta a little bit. Yeah. And listen, if his speed aura is good, he's the only one that's got it. So what the percentage is doesn't matter. I just need to be moving faster than the other team to catch them. Right. So I don't think that's going to have a huge, huge impact on him. And then the Discord orb nerf is, there's still only so many abilities that have an effect like that. Mercy's damage boost isn't even close to as effective as a Discord orb because it only boosts the one person that's being boosted, right? The best analog is the ultimate for Orisa, because that can hit multiple people at once. And that is an ultimate ability, and this is just I throw it out on no cooldown on whoever I want to. So
and switch it as much as I want to,
Right. If Zenyatta is going to be good, Zenyatta is going to be good, and this change won't affect that. Some of the changes that I do think will have an impact. Dafran, man, one stage too early. The Soldier 76 buff is significant. He was nerfed off of this damage number previously, and now he got some quality of life changes. It's going to be very interesting to see what teams are going to do with Soldier 76. I think the style of hero is a little on the weaker side, but in the past when we saw dive comp, we saw some single tank dive compositions, and people were playing the Soldier 76 because he just kind of pressures and he hangs back and he can heal himself. He can do, protect the Zenyatta a little bit. So I can see a world where we're seeing some Soldier 76 play in Overwatch League again. All accounts are Sombra and Doomfist feel incredibly good for DPS players at the moment. So if we're in a dive meta, I think we're going to see more of those two heroes as opposed to maybe your traditional Tracer Genji. I think Genji will still definitely be around, but listen, they didn't delete Brig. Sorry about your movement.
Still
but it's not gone. So I think Tracer's still in kind of a rough spot to be able to fight against Brig, but maybe you see teams roll out with it and then change. I don't know. We should see at least a little more Tracer than we have in recent memory. The McCree fan the hammer change is not really a big deal. The Overwatch League players are good enough to hit the headshots with their left click. They're not really using it. But Deadeye being buffed like crazy is a very big deal to me. One of the things we're trying, and Blizzard is trying to take out of the meta a little bit, or at least bring down a peg, is the GOATS composition. And I think the Deadeye change is going to be a decent part of that. Just the fast rate at which it charges up and allows you to kill people, including heroes with huge tank like HP pools. I think they're going to be able to be taken out much faster by this. Do I think McCree is going to be great in a meta where GOATS isn't necessarily the #1 composition? No, probably not. There's probably more like a Widowmaker meta on the horizon or something like that. But if teams are playing GOATS and you need a counter, I think you can go into Junkrat McCree as an example. Junkrat with his damage increase. Now there's another buff coming down the pipeline for Junkrat as well, a projectile speed increase. I think that might put Junkrat more in line as like something that can really, really take GOATS down a peg. But I played a little Junk and I played it against GOATS, and you can really chew people up. What that means for the Overwatch League meta, I don't know, because the GOATS compositions that are run will be much more coordinated, practiced. The Diva play will be much better, but so will the Junkrat play. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how that plays out. And then I think we're going to see a lot of bunker compositions with Orisa on defense. Her ability to move while shooting is greatly improved. It at least feels significantly better. So yeah, I think we're moving into the right direction at least. There's kind of a conversation going on in chat. Is GOATS dead? The people need to know. No, it's not dead. I think it's still going to be a viable composition. There's going to be places you want to run it. I think it's going to be adapted. I don't think we're going to see near as much Reinhardt GOATS, which is to me GOATS, right? So to me, yes, GOATS is dead, but the community definition of GOATS is
still floats.
Are there
and
six heroes? Right? Woats. Are there 6 heroes on the field? If yes, it's GOATS. Then no, GOATS isn't dead because everything's GOATS. But yeah, you're going to see some of the Winston variants that we saw last stage a little bit more prevalent, and then I think we are just without a doubt going to see some DPS compositions. It's very rewarding right now to play DPS heroes. It feels that way, at least to me. And I'm not even good at those DPS heroes. So I think we're looking at a spot where there's going to be more switches off of it at a bare minimum. I also think we're going to see a good amount of Wrecking Ball. Not that Chengdu was like necessarily a visionary, because the conception of what Chengdu actually ran has been so different than what they ran in actuality on the stage. Everybody thinks they were like a 1 tank, 1 support, 4 DPS team, like locked and loaded, all staged. That wasn't the case. They were 2-2-2 the majority of the time from what I saw. But it's going to be a matter of GOATS is going to be brought down a peg. It's not going to be leaps and bounds the best composition anymore. There's going to be maps. I'm thinking of like maps like Gibraltar and things like that. Like, if you can't play GOATS into a Widowmaker on those high grounds. You like a Widowmaker Soldier now with his damage buff, or Widowmaker Junkrat on some of these maps is going to be a thing. I think McCree is a big tool to be able to break a GOATS composition. If you're kind of getting rolled, you can switch into that and just build up the Deadeye and use that to kind of take a team down. It happens so fast, it's crazy to me how fast you fill those up. But if you wanted to see less Reinhardt, more Winston play, I think you're definitely going to be really happy with the way this goes down. Defenses, I think, will look different because Orisa looks really good. But yeah, it's going to be a very different meta than we saw before. Will it kill GOATS? Probably not, just because these like Overwatch League teams are historically slow at adapting to these things. Are we going to see Baptiste in week 1? No, probably not, because they've got 3 weeks of practice on it. As opposed
took a while for us to see Anna, I remember.
Right. And so you're going to see these teams continue to go back to, like, they need to win the match that's in front of them right there. And is that going to be to play the unpracticed composition and put put Jonak on a hero he's played for 50 hours as opposed to 3,000 hours? I'm guessing completely at the number of hours he's played. It probably way too low on all accounts, but it's going to be a slow adaptation. But I think by the end of stage 2, GOATS is going to be like the 3rd most played composition, whatever variant you want. Winston, doesn't matter. I think we're going to transition away from that, and I think that's shown a little bit by, we saw adaptation in stage 1. We saw teams, it was GOATS, nothing but, at the beginning, with a couple of exceptions, and the Chengdu Guangzhou match bringing every hero into the into play in the first week. But we're going to see more and more adaptation. Like teams went into the Sombra version of goats in stage 1. Somebody's going to find something that works to take it out if it's still really good. There's a lot more tools at their disposal now. So regardless of if, you know, your favorite streamers out there talking about it, they're still playing Brig and Scrims. That's one of 20 teams, and it only takes one team to get it right. So no matter what anybody tells you, I think you have to go into the stage with an open mind and prepared for it to change and be significantly different, because there's too many lines in these patch notes for anybody, even the smartest Overwatch mind in the world, to sit down and go, right, this is what's going to happen. I can tell because I read this novel that Blizzard released as a patch note. You know, that's not the case. The interactions within Overwatch are crazy, and a change like 1 extra damage per bullet on Soldier 76, we just have no idea what that's going to do. We know what it did when they took that 1 damage away from him, and it went from him being a mainstay in the meta to we have not seen him since that day. You know, so a lot of these changes are pretty big. Will it completely disrupt all the months and hours that teams have been putting in on goats? Probably not right away, but I think over time we're going to see more and more changes as the stage goes on. Yeah, and more DPS play too. Like your favorite DPS players are going to start to come off the bench. Bearhands, you're in the chat. Saya player, man, Saya player. We need to see him. I need to see him
at full capacity, at full power.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I don't. You know, people are always like, "Oh, goats, so boring." Blah. I don't want goats to go away. A lot of times we've seen one meta be dominant, and then a huge shakeup, and then another meta comes over and is dominant, and we don't see it anymore. How much dive did we see in stage 1 here? Really not that much. We saw a lot of goats, and what you were saying, you know, a couple things here, a little Tutu, a little Sombra goats, some Hammond Winston Hansen. Yes,
start singing.
Yeah, right, there we go. It would be really weird if I had a drop for it already. But like let's see like a little bit of increments here. Let's see like different stuff get played, and like I predicted a while ago, like let's see some teams really embrace it. Let's see, like Chengdu kind of gave us a kernel of what's possible. They obviously didn't like overly perform, where it's like, you know what, goats is the meta, that's great, we're gonna play this and we're gonna do fine. We're gonna do this. Maybe we have something that specifically beats goats but isn't good against anything else. Maybe there's a little bit of rock paper scissors going. Let's get something in there. But I think people just want goats to go away without thinking about what's going to replace it, and if it's too dominant. Like it's going to be much better to have goats still be fine and playable, but also have something else to be fine and playable. We've been around the block a lot, Death. We've been there since the very beginning. People ask for one thing to go away, and it's like the monkey's paw. It's like, oh, you don't want dive anymore? Oh, you don't want goats anymore? All right.
I'm going to give an example of this, and not that he's wrong. This is a good buddy of mine. I love Jay Lee to death. It was like the first day playing on the new patch, and it's like nobody was playing goats, and it was like, it felt like freedom to me personally. I don't know. And he's sitting there and he's just like, man, this game just isn't fun to play when Doomfist is any good. And it's just like, dude, it's day one now. It's day one. We just got out of it. Like, we're just out of goats jail, and we're already upset about it.
Turns out people hate what's popular. Everyone's a hipster.
There's never been a good meta if you ask around, right? Like, yeah, if you ask enough people, somebody's always going to be upset about it. And to me, the main problem with goats has always just been that, like, we have all these great DPS players in Overwatch League, and it would sure be nice to see them. That has been basically my only gripe about the goats metagame. So I'm on board for it to stick around a little bit. I'm leaning towards it's going to be most of the way gone, or kind of a secondary or tertiary composition. But we will have to wait and see exactly what happens, because regardless of what's right, what matters is what these teams and these players and these coaches perceive to be right. That's way more important than what's actually true as far as what we're going to see on stage.
Bearhand says Dive was the best meta, but the real best meta was the Fantastic Four meta. The very
I liked Zenji.
Zenji was toxic. No, how could you possibly like that? That was so bad.
I was a Zenyatta player. I had 2 spots in every composition. My orbs stayed on people for infinity amounts of time. I didn't need to maintain line of sight on him.
Before or after he got Speed Yada change? It may have been. There may have been overlap, honestly.
It was literal beta, though. So
yeah. Back in my days, Zenyatta's transcendence made you go slower. Okay, we're getting into old man competitive Overwatch here. All these whippersnappers complaining about goats don't even know about Twin Centusio Trey. But Pepperidge Farms remembers. But that's enough about the possible stage 2. We'll have everything we just said will be proven wrong almost instantly, I'm sure. Week 1. But speaking of week 1, let's break it. Talk about some good old matches for this week. We're right back into the thick of things, and our first match is a bit of a humdinger. We've got Philadelphia Fusion versus NYXL. Death, do you think Philly has any chance?
Sure. 100%. They regular season beaten New York in the past, so of course they have a chance. We're moving into the opportunity for Carpe to just pop off on Widowmaker is a little more prevalent. That said, I'm not a completely different person or anything like that, so give me the NYXL to win 3-1. But yeah, we've got to stop asking the question, is there a chance? Because there's only one correct answer to that 100 out of 100 times.
No, there's no chance. It's not going to happen, because in the worlds where Carpe pops off, we can have Flower pop off now. We can have Nene pop off again. We can have Pine pop off. SBB can pop. There's so much. I'm so excited about this new meta for NYXL. I can't wait to see who we're going to get to see play. Is Pine ever going to see the stage? Is Flower ever going to see the stage? Is SBB like I want to see these players. Like we already saw. I mean, we already saw NYXL not against shipping players and players who are by a lot of metrics fan favorites. We saw Arc get traded. So the fact that we haven't seen at least one of the DPS players, right? Like SBB or Pine or Flower, I think Nene and Libero are here to stay. But is that who they're gonna run out here? I mean, if that's the case, what are we doing with all these extra players? I don't know. I mean, I want to hoard them all, like, Pokemon cards. Like, just hold them. No. I need 4. I need 5 foil Charizards. No. You don't need them. I need them. I get it. I get it. But at the end of the day, like, if we can get a backup support player, if we can get something, I don't know. With that being said, NYXL 3-1 here for me as well. Moving on, the second match of the week is Boston Uprising versus Atlanta Reign. I'm not. I had little faith in Atlanta. They proved me wrong. I'll give them credit where credit's due. They obviously made a very nice playoff berth for stage 1. Boston also exceeded all expectations. When we looked at Boston at the beginning of the season, they looked like a bottom-tier team. How do you become a better team when you get rid of Striker? How does that happen? I don't know if they're a better team, but they did make the stage 1 playoffs. I got Boston 4-0 here. What do you got?
Yeah, listen, we don't know what the meta is going to be, but regardless of whether or not it's GOATS or 2-2-2, I think Atlanta took a hit here. So I've got to go with a 3-1 win here for Boston. The maps are going to be new, so we're kind of resetting in a lot of ways. Not going to be picking a lot of 4-0s this week. Thankfully, I don't really have to.
I'm not picking 4-0s.
And yeah, I don't. That's your meme, so I'll leave that for you. But yeah, so I'm just gonna be going with a lot of 3-1s here, but I do think just Boston is the more complete team at the moment. It's really gonna depend though, because I don't recall Fusions being like a world beater on Winston or anything like that in the past.
True.
So I could see them taking a bit of a hit in more of a Winston-based metagame. A lot of what we saw from Fusions was just big, huge brain shatter plays and things like that. And obviously Winston just has a completely different kit. So we don't really know what we have in either of these teams at the moment. But until we know how the meta plays out, I do think Boston is a little more well-rounded, a little better prepared for whatever the metagame is going to be throwing at us. So I'll take them with a 3-1 win. And hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, always gotta hope against Boston. I don't know. I'm willing. Again, I'm willing to have Atlanta prove me wrong. It's not like I have anything against Atlanta, but I think Boston proved me more wrong than Atlanta did, and Boston didn't lose arguably their best player from stage 1. But moving on here, we've got Shanghai Dragons versus LA Gladiators. I'm declaring it now. I'm still very past biased against Shanghai, but I think this might be the stage where I can start to be won over. This is a big match, I think, for Shanghai. I am picking Gladiators to win here 3-1, but if Shanghai can come out, start out the stage with a victory against the team that I think arguably is on the bottom end of the, in the bottom half of teams right now, but still like in that middle of the pack team. I mean, we moved from Shanghai being obviously from stage 1 the very bottom up into solidly middle, and can start working their way up the rungs and start taking some wins here. I'm not picking them to win yet, but I think this is the stage where my mind can really be changed about Shanghai.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think Ding and Diem are really players that need to be unlocked, I think, for us to really see what the complete or the full picture of Shanghai is, what their high watermark is going to be for this season. Those should be the strength of their roster. So if the meta is slow to shift, then maybe we don't see it quite yet. But I'm very open to the possibility that Shanghai is going to level up this stage. I'm going to call this one pretty close, and I'm going to say Gladiators 3-2. But Shanghai's been getting better kind of in front of our eyes, ups and downs for sure. But yeah, I think they're going to be able to keep this close, and the Gladiators have been inconsistent as well. So I don't want to call this one decisively either direction, but I do like the Gladiators more overall, both just like them personally and as a team who, I think they're
Yeah, we are gonna finally get to see Void play some DPS as well.
Nope.
No.
He'll be an off tank no matter what. Decay.
What am I thinking of? Man,
You're thinking of every other player on the Gladiators roster.
Yeah. No. I mean Surefour. No. I mean hydration. Sorry. No. Fissure. Oh god. Everyone who's ever played on there.
Wrong season. You're like my mom trying to figure out my name.
Sorry. No, I meant Big Goose. Moving on here. Shout outs to A Smith for the Twitch Prime sub. I bring that up because the podcast can hear it, because I forget how to turn off the notifications. So it's just going to happen. So if you want to, we'll take this little break here. If you want to ruin the live show and also the podcast, you can always subscribe on Twitch for free with Twitch Prime, twitch.tv/ShiningPodcast, every Monday at around 7 o'clock Eastern. Just so you know, I'm not turning it off. So if you want to completely bombard the show with Twitch Prime subs, I guess that's just going to have to happen. But moving on, we've got Guangzhou Charge versus Paris Eternal, and I'm just going to state it now and wait for it to happen. I don't think I'm picking Paris to win a match this stage.
Till they do, or if they're
until they do. I mean, if they come out and are really great. If they come out and look good, I'm fine. But right now, as it stands, I'm not predicting them. If I had to pick out the whole stage, I'm not predicting them to win yet. Yeah, I've got Guangzhou here. I got him 4-0. I mean, again, the matches don't matter, but I'm giving it to him. I think Guangzhou again is more unknown. I mean, there's only one factor to me that matters for New Paris, and this is going to be Shadowburn. And is he going to see play? We don't know yet. I hope so. I love seeing Shadowburn play.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting to see exactly what Paris does here. I kind of expect them to cling to goats for as long as they possibly can. I would like to see if they're going into more of a Winston centric goats composition. I still think LH Cloudy might be their best tank option. Really, just firmly becoming a Ben Best hater, or at least truth teller, because he had a pretty rough go in the first stage. So yeah, I have a hard time seeing them getting better as we move away from a composition that is basically their strength. So yeah, I'm going to be giving this one to Guangzhou 3-1 here, but that is a very big question. Is it, are we still playing the Zarya with their DPS? Is it soon? Is it Shadowburn? And does that even matter? Because neither of them were really great at it, to be perfectly honest with you, when given the chance. So we will have to wait and see exactly what the meta is, what Paris does with their roster. They do have some options and some depth to play around with. But yeah, we will be watching this one closely for sure, because this is definitely, as things change and as things adapt, we're back to placement matches, and this for me is a pretty big placement.
Definitely. I mean, again, Paris, prove me wrong, but as it stands now, not giving it to you. Moving on, we've got London versus Florida Mayhem. Now we have Bare Hands is a GM for them.
Earmuffs, Bare Hands.
We have who assures us that there are irons in the fire.
Yes.
But until I see him, I'm giving London the 5-0 here.
Going with the 5-0, that's BM. This is one of my few 4-0s. This is only going to be a benefit to London to be able to move away from Reinhardt into Winston. So regardless of whether or not it's Winston Goats or DPS centric, I think London is overall the better team. I will start picking Florida when they show me Saya player. Don't at me, Bare Hands.
Or Adam. You can do that too.
I've never been able to stop it.
Next up, we've got Washington Justice versus Toronto Defiant. I'm going back-to-back here. This might be the first time ever. I'm going back-to-back 5-0s. Toronto 5-0 against Washington. They're another team. I don't know if I'm picking them to win this stage. It's gonna be two immovable objects if we see Washington versus Paris. But man, they look bad. This is you mentioned here. This is the debut of Arc.
Yeah.
I couldn't care less.
I don't think it's going to drastically make a difference for this team. That's the kind of change that I think you'll see over time them kind of improve based around him as they continue to play with him and build up some synergy and get used to the new shot calling. But regardless of how good of a player Arc is, it could be an immediate step back for Washington, because now they do have a whole new shot caller, and hopefully it can do some good things for Janice's tank play and just help with the communication overall on the team, because Arc is pretty bilingual and pretty fluent in both. But like I said, that's a long-term kind of a goal. If you want to make an immediate impact, you need I think like a main tank or a DPS player with just real carry potential. So basically Arc would have to just completely unlock Ado, I think, in order for them to make a huge leaps and bounds jump. So I'll be taking a 4-0 for Toronto here.
Yeah. Arc could not unlock Janice when they were both playing on the best team in Overwatch. So I don't think that they're going to unlock Janice. He had his chance. I had high hopes for Janice. Not that I cared if Washington won or not. I just, thought that a player of his caliber could do great things with that amount of power, and I was wrong. So fool me once, Janice, fool me once. Next up, we've got the LA Valiant versus the San Francisco Shock. Shock looked very good, like we talked about last week, in the Stage 1 playoffs. Valiant not gotten a single win yet in Season 2. I got San Francisco 4-0 here.
I'm going to take them 3-1. I think the Valiant are better than their 0-7 record. When you look, I mean, we were going through the numbers on Foul Play and talking about some of the best performers.
That's true. They do
so many LA Valiant players were in the top 5 at their position statistically. And it's kind of crazy considering they can't win. And there was a really great write-up that talked about, you know, what's going on with the team, and I can't remember who wrote it. It was up on Medium. It was just kind of a one-off. I posted it in Discord. If you really want to see it, let me know, and I'll try to find it again in the chat for you. But basically, I think a lot of the Valiant's problems were communication and synergy and ultimate usage, and those are fixable problems. So I don't recall them bringing in, I mean, they have their like interim new head coach, but they haven't really brought anybody in yet. So expect that to still be a problem. And San Francisco playing as good as they were to close out the stage. These are teams on very opposite ends of the spectrum right now. So I'll be taking San Francisco 3-1, but I do think the Valiant have a chance to be pretty competitive in this match. So don't sleep on them completely.
Yeah.
Don't pick them either.
I think it's a little bit of a combination of both. I'm sleeping on Valiant still, but also I'm putting some stock into San Francisco. So, yeah. Let's talk about LA Gladiators versus Seoul Dynasty. I got Seoul here 3-1. I think Seoul has... I don't want to say... I mean, they beat NYXL in the playoffs, so... that's got to be worth something. Like I talked about previously, they always seem to kind of play a little bit better against Seoul or against NYXL. I mean, we can make all the excuses in the world as to why that happened, but regardless, it did happen. Even if it was a fluke or whatever, Seoul looked better than they had previously. They still look decent. If we are in a Winston meta, who better on Winston than Fissure? There may be a couple of answers that would be acceptable, but not too many. And I don't know how many of them are on the LA Gladiators, so I got Seoul here 3-1.
Yeah, I've got this one razor thin. I mean, going into the playoffs, I was pretty adamant that I didn't think New York cared, that I didn't think they were studying or prepping for this. And so when they lost, it wasn't a big story to me. Not really much changed. I didn't really slide Seoul up tremendously in my rankings as a result of it. They went out and just got bodied in their next match, right? So it's not even like their last appearance was great in the NYXL. Like, we saw them come back down to earth. So I don't see any reason to think of them as more than a run-of-the-mill average team. That's right where the Gladiators are. I think the Gladiators are a little bit more meta-resilient with their DPS core, though I'm not sure how they're going to use them. I do want to see Surefour get back out there. So if they can find a way to get him into the lineup, I really like them to be able to take this one down. I'm going to hedge my bets and go with a 3-2 win for the Gladiators here. But that does, Blevins, mean everybody's second favorite
get to
host.
See
the coin. Who's what?
Tails for Gladiators.
Gladiators win on the tails.
I tried
the
to.
Coin is in my favor.
I did the quadruple pocket there. I was like trying to go back and forth. All right, coin picks Gladiators. I pick Seoul. It's fine. Don't care. Coin can be wrong.
Stupid coin.
It's very rarely wrong. Next up, we've got Florida Mayhem versus Philadelphia Fusion. Notably, last time they faced, Florida ended up taking this one. With that being said, I'm picking Philadelphia 3-1 here.
Has anybody heard from Boombox recently? Is he okay? Is he doing well? Yeah, this isn't going to be a surprise unless there's some news. Something has to happen here, right? So keep an eye out. Philly plays in the first match of the week. If Boombox is out, you might want to, and they flop, you might want to consider, consider something here. But yeah, I'm going to be. Yeah, you can sit Boombox if you want to, and I'm going to take this one. Yeah, I'll give it 3-1.
But what if it's old bad Philly and they're back again?
They're still probably going to win 3-1.
All right. Well, you timed that perfectly with the drop, so that was all I wanted, and it worked out perfectly. Speaking of working out perfectly, we've got Toronto Defiant facing off against the Boston Uprising. I got Toronto here 3-1. Neko has forgotten, I'm sure, still forgotten to change his spray off of the Toronto Defiance or the Boston Uprising spray so that he can teabag it when he kills them.
Tactical crouch, Blevins.
Oh, sorry. Yes, tactical crouch. I know. That was a macro aggression. Sorry.
This is
because he has the button set to a macro. Get it? It was a computer joke. It
just wasn't good enough to comment on, so I was trying to run over. All right, so I'm going to be taking Toronto here 3-1. I think the very curious things to watch here is I wasn't super sold on Yakpung's Reinhardt, so what does he have on Winston?
Right.
If we're moving into more Winston-based compositions, goats or not goats, I think he's going to really need to shore things up. Toronto's the rookie weakness really reared its ugly head in the playoffs, Blevins. They benched him for the last match. Aid came in. It wasn't necessarily super great with him in either, but we're going to have to take a look and just go with what makes the most sense, right? Like Toronto was 5-2 on stage one. Boston was up and down. It's potentially a close one, but in the battle of good versus evil, I'm going to bet on good as many times as I possibly can. So give me Toronto 3-1.
Yeah, this is probably your most besides Houston, obviously, your home team that you're rooting for against the team that you actively hate.
The devil. Yes.
Yeah. So we're gonna both be rising together against the Boston Uprising, hopefully. Next up, we've got NYXL versus Shanghai Dragons. Let's wipe our hands clean here. Easy 5-0 for NYXL.
Pretty much.
Not much to talk about there.
Nothing to add except for I went 4-0, but
right. Yeah, classic. Next up, we've got Chengdu Hunters versus Paris Eternal. I'm still keeping my not picking Paris to win yet. I've got Chengdu Hunters 3-1. I'm very curious as to how Chengdu rolls out. Wouldn't it be ironic if they started playing Ghosts?
Just full Goats, just Reinhardt Zarya. Just you don't tell us what to do. It would be absolutely hysterical. Chengdu should have a leg up here. They've been kind of doing like what we're talking about as like the second iteration of stage 2, right. All of stage 1. So theoretically, they should improve more than most teams as a result of this patch. I think Paris gets worse as a result of this patch, and I think Chengdu even finished above them, if I'm remembering correctly, in the standings. So I don't think this one is necessarily particularly close, though obviously Paris certainly is within striking distance and able to take this one down. They were literally same exact record, same exact map differential. It should be interesting and fairly close, but I do have Chengdu just being better by virtue of I think this patch favors them and hurts Paris.
Yeah, I mean the only thing again that I have in the back pocket for Paris is like how different does the team look when they can ride Shadowburn, which they might not even do. Who knows? Yeah. I don't know. But moving on to Sunday. First match, we've got San Francisco Shock versus Guangzhou Charge. Again, I'm very bullish on the Shock right now. They just look like they leveled up in those playoffs. And sure, that may have just been like the clutch moment, leveling up for the playoff. But it was like across multiple days. They didn't lose until they played against Vancouver, and they brought Vancouver to the distance. I was super impressed with San Francisco that whole playoffs, and if they can continue any of that, I'm very bullish on them. I've got them 4-0 here.
Yeah, I'm going 3-1 because I do have worries about what is the tank play going to look like in a Winston meta for San Francisco. So I think there's a decent chance they take a step back, but I don't think it's a deal breaker or a tier jumping step back. So I'll give San Francisco the win here. Right now they're not really on the same level. I don't like to pick upsets that are completely across different tiers of players, but right. So I'll go San Francisco with 3-1. It could be close. Guangzhou surprised us multiple times already. So
Guangzhou has shown flashes of greatness, but again, we're not in the business here of randomly picking the upset because we're not doing. I guess you could do for pick'em. It's still early on. I don't know if I would flip this one. I don't think I would call flip.
Look at the percentages. You can see the percentages now in the platform. Maybe not. They don't give us exact percentages. That's why we're not talking about them. Also, picks for this week aren't up, so we don't even get to try to guess at them.
Yeah.
But Yeah, so look at it. I mean, if it is like 99% San Francisco, then maybe it is an opportunity, especially if San Francisco falters earlier in the week. They play earlier. Yeah, they play against the Valiant earlier in the week. So if San Francisco loses to the Valiant, all bets become off here.
That's true.
You know, I think you have to, at least looking at it objectively, think San Francisco's favored.
For sure. Next up, we've got Atlanta Reign versus London Spitfire. Again, I mean, this one's almost entirely dependent on both of these teams' first matches. But as it stands, not having that information, I've just got London pegged as a stronger team. I'm still a big question mark with Atlanta, but I was never really that high on them. They exceeded my expectations, like I talked about earlier. But they are now sans Dafrans. Give me London 4-0.
Sans de France.
Sans de France.
I like it.
That's an episode title, I think.
Yeah, this one is, you know, it's funny to me, like Atlanta is like, sorry, Atlanta fans, but you're like budget London to me right now, because you have very similar roster constructions, and that, like, I'm very confident in your tank line. I think your support line is pretty strong, but like just a little bit weaker, right? I mean, we love Dogman here. He's a friend of the show. He's been on the show. I'm taking Badosin on flex support if I get to choose between the two of them. You know, I'm leaning more towards Gesture Fury than I am, and you've got to be leaning more towards Prophet than Erster, right? So it's just, they seem to be slightly better across the board, and you know, there's this, even the weakness is the same. Right, the second DPS, we lost a Fran. We don't know what they're going to play. Who's going to do it? How good are they going to do? Is Birdwing anything? Like, can Guard come in and play anything other than Sombra? So, like, there's question marks on both teams, and they seem to line up. So I could see this one being pretty close. But yeah, I lean London. I just think they're across the board a little more talented. But if the game, you know, if Atlanta comes in with a good game plan and is a little bit more prepared and got a little bit better beat on the metagame, this one could easily.
Yeah, this is a decent flip, especially based on the percentages, especially if you need points. This could be a flip of the week potentially. Up next, we got Vancouver versus Hangzhou Charge. I think we're solid. Did I write the wrong thing?
Hangzhou Spark.
Oh, I did write the wrong thing. Hangzhou Spark. I'm stupid. But like I was saying, Vancouver, I think, is solidly in the don't pick them to lose until they show us that it is even possible. Give me Vancouver. I put 4-0. I put so many 4-0s just because I was lazy, but this is honestly closer to a 3-1.
Not lazy, Blevins. You were confident. You were confident. That's the word.
Why not both?
You know, you do have to take Vancouver with a little bit of a grain of salt going into a meta change, because
true,
you know, all we've seen is Bumpers Reinhardt play. All we've seen are, you know, the DPS players on non-DPS characters, but we know these guys a little bit, right? Like we don't know how it'll translate to Overwatch League, but it's really hard to imagine a meta where like Stitch and Hoxall are just bad. Right, like I just can't imagine them just not being at least passable, you know, very good players. I'm curious Bumper on Winston though. That could be interesting. I don't recall seeing a ton of that in the past because we don't watch a ton of Korean contenders. Right. I'm sure there's tape of it out there, but man, he had those mistakes. The aggro play was great and it did great for them, but if you're even a little over aggressive on Winston, you're just dead. Like, you don't have that big shield. You don't have a charge to get you out necessarily. And so one errant jump and just your tank is gone in a lot faster fashion than it was in Go. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see. But again, you're not wrong either in the sense that like Hangzhou is squarely middle to bottom of the pack as of right now. And I think they do get better when you get to put Gushui on the Winston instead. So I think there's a decent chance they elevate rather than go down. And Vancouver might fall a little bit, but probably not much. And I'm not going to not pick them, like you said, until they lose. They've earned that right with an undefeated stage.
Yes. And not even just an undefeated stage, but like even against a team, when they played against the Guangzhou Charge, the first time it was a 3-2 win for them, barely eked it out. But when they played the second time in the last week of the stage, it was like Vancouver was like, all right, let's play now, boys, and just like turn the screws in the hands of the Charge when they actually did need the 4-0 to secure the first seed in the playoffs. So that just leads me to think that Vancouver really is an anime character, and you haven't even seen my final form. I had to go there. Last match of the week is the Washington Justice versus the Chengdu Hunters. Man, I don't know how many teams I have that I'm not going to pick to win until they show me that they can. Or not even show me that they can, but really show me some market improvement. But Washington is definitely on that list. I'm giving Chengdu the 3-1 victory here.
Yeah, it's like Washington stumbled their way through one win in stage one. That's far from making me change my pick'em or even my power rankings, like stealing a win there. I've got 3-1 Chengdu here as well. I don't think either of us have agreed with Bare Hands about predictions he's put in chat yet. For what it's worth, this is one he does agree with us on. So, I mean, that's a 3-0 sweep right there. So yeah, we'll go 3-1 with Chengdu. You can just write that one in pen. You don't even got to use pencil on that one.
No pencil needed. And speaking of pencil, I don't have a transition with pencils, but that is going to transition us into the end of the show. Thank you everyone for watching. Deathblow, any last minute stuff before we head off to the wonderful land of fantasy Overwatch and foul play?
Yeah, something we'll talk about there as well. But Houston and Dallas are off this stage, so I'm curious, Blevins, what you think about that? Not this stage, this week of stage two, the first week, because they play twice in the road game since it's in Texas, in Dallas this time around. So they get this week off, and I'm curious what you think. Is that a big boost for them? A moderate boost? What does that mean to I mean, it extends their vacation, right? Like if rest and relaxation is important to these teams. And also, they just get to sit around and watch for a week and see what happens with this metagame over the first week, and then come in week two having showed nothing. So I'm curious your thoughts on it. What do you think that's going to do for Dallas and Houston?
It's definitely good for both of them for the reasons that you just explained. It also, like, they not only get the extra – it's not just that they get the extra vacation. They get to instead take the match that they would be playing – get a vacation, and then double it up in actual home games. So, like, it's the double whammy of you get to hold off your strats and rest and relax for another week. You get to watch. You get to do tape. You get a tape week. I remember when I was playing basketball, it was always nice when we didn't have, a lifting practice. We had a tape. We would do practice and then watch tape instead of practice and then lift. It's just that extra, just like, okay, let's just really look into it and focus here. It's always nice to do that, and to remove the first week where maybe there's rust, maybe something crazy, maybe Guangzhou Charge comes in and has some crazy meta defining thing. Okay, Houston and Dallas get to scrim and practice that for a whole week and not have to worry about, like, their actual match because they're not playing. And also that week is taken and they get to play 2 home games in a week. So it's a
really double. One though, because they play against each other there, and they got to imagine, even though it's in Dallas, you got to imagine that's going to be a pretty hard split.
It is, but that game's going to be hype one way or the other. They're going to have a home crowd there cheering for them.
I'm almost mad that it's because I want to really be super. I'm going to be super invested in that one, but that game's almost going to be so fun as long as it's not a blowout in either direction. Like, it's just going to be so much fun to watch, regardless of what way it goes.
I can't wait to hear the full some of the best moments in Overwatch League have been the chants from the teams.
The battle for LA, yeah, those were great.
The battle for LA chants are always good. It's so good. I can't wait to see. I hope. Yeah. So yeah, definitely, and we'll definitely be talking about that more on Foul Play, which is coming up next. If you're in the live show, make sure to stick around for that. If you are a podcast listener, you can join us live, like I had mentioned before, every week, Monday, twitch.tv/High Noon Podcast. You can also support the show. You can support the show by subscribing on Twitch. There, we are Twitch affiliates. You can use your Twitch Prime. You can also support us on Patreon, patreon.com/High Noon Podcast. All of that always goes towards helping out the show and getting us to events and all that good stuff. You can find us everywhere, all the social media that you can think of. High Noon Podcast. We got the right name. We got it all everywhere that you want. YouTube, Twitter, all that good stuff. HighNoonPodcast.com as well. But that is going to be it, guys. For Deathblow, I am the Blevins. And remember, it's High Noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. Threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
If you're sans Dafrans, I'm certainly not gonna be a fans.